How's it going, everyone? My name is Raven. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Rainbow Veteran. For today's episode, I want to talk about Veteran Affairs program, Pride in All Who Served. This is a group I was in I want to say October to November, maybe a little bit of September of 2024. And I have recently been in the new group at the beginning of 2025 before the inauguration and all the stuff that happened with that. So I want to go over what this program does and talk about some of the things that we may be experiencing with the program in the future. And kind of talk about some of the theoretical stuff that is potentially going to go away with these executive orders and the VA. So with that, I want to start with my story. I never really talked about my story here on the podcast, and I really want to do it today. And I figured today's episode would be a really great way to do that, because if I knew about this kind of group when I was in college, it probably would have helped me a lot. So I, at the time, identified as bisexual in high school. This is before I learned about pansexuality, which I do now identify as. And I kind of kept it a secret from my family, up until college. I want to say my sophomore year of college. And that was mostly because my mom makes a lot of dad jokes, and this is the dumbest thing too. I didn't come out to my parents with my sexuality because I knew my mom was going to make an onslaught of dad jokes. And some of her jokes would just be even worse. Like, whenever I said I didn't get something, my mom would be like, hey, like, here, exactly how it would go. Hey, mom, you know what I don't get? A girlfriend. So if I was out as bi, I would have been like, hey, mom, you know what I don't get? A girlfriend. Next time, a boyfriend. Like, to this day, she still says she hates that she can't do that joke because I'm married and polyamorous. But it was something that was like a big cause of why I didn't come out for a long time, because I just didn't want to deal with it. And I thought if I ever found a boyfriend and I got to the point where I would introduce him to my parents, that would be the moment, but that never happened. So I went into the Navy. I signed up in high school. I think I was technically 17 when I signed up. I didn't go to basic yet. I was part of the delayed entry program, or DEP. And I was waiting till I graduated I had to wait till I had to graduate high school. So when I signed up, it was 2012. I don't think it was a full year after Don't Ask, Don't Tell when I actually signed up. But I definitely went right after high school. I think I graduated high school, if I recall correctly. And 2 weeks later, I went to basic. And even then in basic, I was out. And I didn't hide who I was the entire time I was in the military and in the Navy. I was very open, and unfortunately it might have been a little bit of the issue of what ended up happening to me because I was open with some of these folks. But you saw the Navy was trying. Like, they tell you when you come in that, you're protected, and you will not face any discrimination or harassment based on like your ethnicity, your religion, your sex, sexual orientation, all that jazz. But when I heard sexual orientation, I knew I felt safe. Now, there's some things that, like, some people kind of, like, were hesitant, not sure how to handle certain things very early on, and that's fine. But it definitely was something that, like, I dealt with while I was in. And then when I went to college, I was a little bit more open about who I was in college and in town. I joined the LGBT Student Resource Center, interacted with some folks there. That's where I learned about gender stuff a bit more. Like, I knew about trans people, but this is when I really learned about it. And it was the summer Yeah, I'm trying to remember the timeline because it's been a minute. Was it was it the summer between when you let's see, it was 2017. I was 22. So okay, so I started figuring out my gender stuff. So I came out my freshman year, second semester, I think, because I went fall. They told me I couldn't use my GI Bill, so I dropped out. Came back for the spring. So yeah, that's summer. So I was well. No, hang on. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the timeline. Anyway, there was a summer session. I think between my freshman year and sophomore year, technically, because spring 2017 would have been my sophomore year or first semester. So anyway, it was a summer session. I was single. I was by myself, no friends. Campus was very quiet and secluded. So it's when I started questioning my gender because my girlfriend at the time, I was growing my hair out because I originally wanted to donate it. And I always grew up with high and tights, being a military brat and living in the South. It was always hot, especially being on the coast. So I grew up with very short hair. So I was trying to see how long I could grow my hair out. And if I got it long enough to donate, I would have donated most of it. And at the time, my girlfriend at the time, before we broke up, like clipped my hair and put like a flower beret in it and complimented me and said I kind of looked like a girl. And that's when I had the first sense of gender euphoria. Um, and then after we broke up, the summer session, after we broke up, I just remember being alone and having a lot of time to figure out who I was. And so I told my mom that summer, like I didn't feel like a guy, but I wasn't sure what that meant. And then eventually, a few months down the road, I started hormones. I want to say it was like, so it was summer 2016. So that had to be in between my first semester and second semester so it was the summer of my freshman year, technically. Um, so like the summer in between semester 1 and 2 of my freshman year, because I started spring. Um, so I had a lot of time to figure out who I was and like look internally. Um, got a little help during the fall semester. Saw a therapist to help kind of get all my ducks in a row and kind of help me of things that I had struggled with that looking back I always had a feeling for even when I was really young, but I didn't have the language at the time, and it was a very confusing time looking back, but I'm glad that I went through that. But having Pride in All Who Served would have been something that would have helped me a lot because I was still using chapter 35 when I was in college. Because at the time I wasn't service connected, so I only had like a year of service under me, so I didn't have enough to qualify for use of my GI Bill. So I didn't get told that from Penn State till like the finals week, my first semester, and I should have just stayed out of Penn State from that point. But it definitely would have helped me because the student veterans system at Penn State sucked really badly. And I had very little help from the entire time I was there. But what's Pride in All Who Served? What's the meat of this episode? Before I go into too long of a tangent about my story, and my gripes with Penn State. So Pride in All Who Served. This is information from the VA website before Trump got all of his executive orders out, because I was originally going to do this before the Trump's first week episode. But with everything going on, I felt like Trump's stuff was more important, so I pushed this episode back. So Pride in All Who Served is a health promotion group that was designed and refined using a human-centered design principle at Hampton VA Medical Center in 2016. That's at the Hampton Roads one in Virginia. Each 1 hour session of the 10-week manualized closed group provides an opportunity to connect with other LGBT veterans, to build a peer system while improving LGBT patient health literacy. Connection to social support is a protective factor against suicide, stigma-related stress, and other health outcomes for LGBT individuals. The group facilitation manual provides a comprehensive approach to implementation of the service, staff training, and guidance on how to create a welcoming environment. Veterans' reaction to the service include, quote, "I can't believe this group is at the VA. My life has gotten better by coming, and I love this group," end quotes. "I feel better talking to my provider." That's another quote, sorry. So, this is a thing that concerns me, and I brought up on the last episode, was Trump is getting rid of a lot of things under the guise of DEI and DEIA with the executive order, but the problem is this started in 2016. This is not part of any DEI program initiatives. This is literally something that came out his first administration and was even there. It was pretty much just a tool to show what services the VA was already providing before 2016 and then kind of boosted stuff to change down the road. So before I go further, I do want to talk about some of the things that are concerned. No, actually, I need to finish what it is first, and then I'll talk about some of the things that are concerning. So the problem the VA saw was LGBT veterans are at an increased risk for suicide and other health inequalities. This is due in part to discrimination and barriers to access and care in and outside of the VA. Despite provider-focused education and inclusivity policies, there was a gap for clinical services for LGBT veterans. And I am going to play a clip from the VA website.
I was a 31 Bravo in the United States Army Military Police. Today, I am proudly the National Security Chairman for the American Legion across the entire country. I have the awesome honor to help represent the 2 million members of the American Legion. I came out as gay my senior year of high school. And what was really interesting for me when I joined the Army, I had to go back in the closet. Now, I fully knew that being openly gay was against the Uniform Code of Military Justice. At that moment in my life, my decision was to serve my country, to put myself and my preferences second.
We have to create welcoming environments, provide affirming care, things that some of them did not get while in the military or were afraid of presenting a certain way in fear of consequences. Our LGBT veterans have a unique need, and it's very important to know. The VHA is different. It's different now, and it's acknowledging and showing our veterans, we see you.
Pride in All Who Served is a 10-week health promotion group, so it functions as an educational group that walks veterans through the process of what was it like to serve in the military, and we don't pull any punches in terms of understanding that that was likely for a majority of individuals an unaffirming and at times negative experience and traumatic experience for a lot of veterans. And we transition from that into topics like affirmative healthcare, healthy relationships. We talk about LGBTQ families and everything in between.
The Department of Veterans Affairs has a very simple and clean mission. They care for every veteran who needs the care, making every single veteran feel welcome within the walls of the VA. The Pride in All Who Serve program at VA continues and sort of dives deeper into that mission by making any veteran who's LGBTQIA not only feel welcome, but feel seen and feel represented and feel like they belong at VA.
Every VA facility has an LGBTQ plus veteran care coordinator. And while not all are group facilitators, they all have access to this information and can get a veteran connected to the nearest group, wherever that might be.
You know, we have a ways to go, but there is movement.
I love thinking about where we've come from, where we are, and hopefully where we can go, right? 20 years ago, VA had never pushed out any type of communication with the letters LGBT in the middle. And today, there's quite a bit. So will we have a VA healthcare system that is completely welcome and makes every single veteran feel welcome? Absolutely we will.
So, in that video, you heard all of them talk about the changes and the issues that they saw. I will say I do hate how he does say preferences, like being queer is not a preference, it's who you are, but there's a lot of trauma behind that for a lot of people, and a lot of them still say that, but it gives the whole it's a choice argument more validity. But that's the only gripe what I had with that video. It's really good. It's a little older, but like it's still really good, and it's still true to this day. There are still there is still the care team that talks about stuff. There are still coordinators as of right now. Who knows what that's going to look like down the road. So the solution to it is Pride in All Who Served program was developed to fill a critical care gap and provide resources for reducing health disparities, including suicide risks. Session content focuses on overall wellness, including social connectedness, and empowering veterans to engage in a service related to their personal health care needs. Now, this group is really good. It gave a lot of resources to things you could do at the VA, certain care programs and healthcare you have access to. And before I get into the timeline, I do want to talk about some of the stuff that is being threatened now. So, it's come out publicly that VA employees have gotten the offer to resign and pay for the resignation illegally. That has been a thing that has gotten out into the public recently, which I think is stupid because that just means less care for veterans, and is something that I think everyone at the VA should not take, because we all know what it actually is, and you might not actually get your money, because historically Trump's never done that, and neither has Elon. They've never honored those kind of things. Remote work has publicly gone out. It said that, you know, they're coming back into the office, which is also going to fuck shit up, because I think I said this on the last episode, rural areas, it helps them a lot, especially with telemed. But also facilities did expansions, and some of the areas that was offices or would have been offices were changed to being like actual rooms to help people, and like bigger triages, more overnight, like inpatient facilities. And so where are they going to go? Like, I know our area here in Pittsburgh doesn't actually have the space to actually accommodate all the telemed personnel. Potentially, the care coordinators at for the LGBT veterans could lose their job. This is something that, you know, Trump's executive orders are going after, unfortunately. So there's that care for veterans. We're not going to go after veterans' care or benefits, but, you know, if you're the gay ones, if you're the wrong kind of veteran, that's when we're going to go after your care. And that's fucking stupid. There's some groups that, you know, potentially were getting reworked for LGBT veterans that aren't coming back because of it. And it's really dumb. It is really, really, really fucking dumb. Because the thing that really irks me is that we have this president who goes after people and weaponizing things, and it's just using hate and bigotry as a justification. Like, we're hurting our service members who are LGBT, we're hurting our veterans who are LGBT, and it just does not make sense to me at all. So, but I do have the timeline here. I'm bringing it up right now from my show notes. But this is from the official notes because like Pride and All Who Serve, like each group is a little different, but there's like routine things that they have to share, and there's like certain media and information they have to share in every group. So timeline here. It starts with Don't Ask, Don't Tell being repealed in 2011. Then VA LGBTQ plus health programs established in 2012, developing best practices in national policy for LGBTQI plus veterans. 2013, Veterans Health, the VHA directive providing healthcare for transgender and intersex veterans is published. 2016, LGBTQ plus veteran care coordinator program is established. That same year, 2016, Pride and All Who Served is officially launched in Hampton, Virginia. VHA directive proposal of healthcare for veterans who identify as lesbian, gay, and bisexual is published in 2017. 3 years later, in 2020, Pride and All Who Served national team forms to kind of get it to spread because it was a really great program in Hampton, and they were kind of like, well, let's take this and let's get the ball rolling. 2021, transgender military ban and all restrictions are lifted. There's a lot for 2021, so I'm just going to keep going here. Secretary McDonough raises pride flag over VA national headquarters. Self-identified gender identity, or SIGI, is implemented at the VA. VA Secretary announces plans to remove exclusion of gender-affirming surgery from VA medical benefits package, which is still something that's kind of still trying to be worked on. So yeah, that's a thing. VA Secretary announces plans to ensure VA is a self-welcoming and equitable environment for all. 2022 Sexual Orientation Clinic reminder launch of VHA. 2022 VA.gov veteran self-entry option for gender identity and chosen name. 2023 Pride and All Who Served, which is its 65th VA hospital site. And 2024, there was a thing that we did last year is you tell 3 friends about Pride and All Who Served to try to get into the next group. That's kind of a continuation of what I'm doing today. I'm telling our listeners, some of who are vets, or some of y'all who know vets. So if you guys ever know any who are looking for something like this, definitely keep an eye out. I don't know if it's going to stay or not, but that's that's a thing. So I'm going to get into my thoughts because that's kind of like the overview of what Pride and All Who Served was. And these are my opinions, I want to say. These are all the things that between the first group and now me being in a second group, what we do, and things that have changed, haven't changed so far. So after going through the course once before, I can't say it's bad. I don't think it's bad at all. There's a lot of good information about the services that the VA provides for LGBT veterans. There's some things that other locations in our area that offered versus others, and we learned about the specific part of our hospital system of which facility does what. And it's really great, but some of the things they use were things that are published for minors, like the genderbread person, to explain the differences between gender expression and identity, which is a good tool to use for people who don't understand what it's like to be trans. But it's more of a thing for like younger folks. Like I saw it in college, and I still thought it was kind of a little. I don't know, how do I want to say this? It was like a little babying in a sense. Like it makes you feel like you're treated like a child. And just to have it in the VA where some folks of the group were in their 60s, and I'm like, if this is making me feel uncomfortable in high school, I can guarantee it's making them feel a little uncomfortable. Edit that coughing out. Another good thing was I got to interact with many people in different parts of their journey and from different eras of military service. Some folks, were out for many years. Some folks are just figuring out who they are now. And it's great, I saw folks from, who are older, who are younger than me and my age. And it was great. It was a good time. The only thing, one of the big things I didn't like about it is, and this is just the VA's approach to LGBT people as a whole, is a lot of the information is like when you go to the VA website and they talk about LGBT stuff, there's a lot of things like things you have to keep in mind of or things to keep a lookout for. And it's the LGBT health interaction with AIDS. And AIDS affects everybody and anyone. It's not a gay disease. It never was a gay disease. And that's the thing that pisses me off a lot is because it's something you get from blood and unprotected sex. And a lot of people don't get that. And having it as a thing that, like, oh, hey, gay men, keep an eye out, still gives the whole Reagan, it's a gay disease, like, kind of thing. And that irritates me. Like, yes, our community, the LGBT community has done a lot. A lot of, like, there's, correct. I can't remember. This used to be a drag queen I performed with. I want to say it's Mandy Moon. She's a huge, like, they're a performer. I don't remember the non-queen performances, gender pronouns right now, but I'm going to use they to be safe. But they were, a big advocate for PrEP and making sure people get tested and everything, but it was never just, oh, hey, y'all are gay. It's just everybody should. And that's an important thing. It's everybody should be, careful, just like any other STD or STI. But that was my biggest gripe. But it was a good thing. Altogether, like there's information about how to come out to people. I think that's like in the first couple of sessions. And it was just really nice. Some of the folks in my second group, there's a couple that were in my first group, and it was really nice to see them again. I'm not going to give names or talk about who they are as a person, but they do make me laugh quite a bit, and I find them very funny. All in all, though, I think it's a great program. It is really good. It's just, I think there is a lot more that can be done. But there's things that need to be talked about per the national program. But some of them, honestly, aren't that great. But I still think it's something that people should go to. Like, some of the materials are just scanned. They're just scanned, like, what's the word? Brochures. They're just scanned brochures and little flyers. And they don't really look that great when you're uploading them and trying to, show it in, like, a telehealth appointment meeting. Like, essentially it's like Zoom if you're not familiar with like how the VA works. It's kind of like a Zoom program or Teams. I think it's more close to Teams now, but yeah, try having that while you're, have a scan of a brochure. It's great. It's not. It's horrible. But I definitely think it should be still given, especially when it's really great for allies to learn. I think is a great tool for them. And that way they can learn more about the LGBT community. It's also good to have for like parents of LGBT kids who are veterans to learn information and how to support their kids. The second group so far hasn't been super different. We only had a couple meetings. We had to cancel one just because there was like this weird outage thing with the VA. system, but like it's really not that different from the previous group, other than I'm just interacting with different people. So yeah, it's definitely a good service, I will say. I don't think that it is bad, and I really, really wish it would stay. And that's something I'm very concerned about. I am concerned that we're going to be losing tools under the guise of this DEI bullcrap and things that were even started well before Trump got in office the first time. And it's concerning because they say they're not trying to take care, like I said earlier, like they say they're not trying to get rid of veteran care, but you got to be the right kind of veteran, apparently. Like, they already attacked LGBT veteran things. They're going after women and minority-based care, which I don't think a lot of people understand that, and it's very disheartening. So yeah, it's a lot. And like there was a training that was stopped for the people who work at the suicide hotline for veterans. There was a training that was stopped because of the fact it had LGBT information on it to help LGBT veterans. And that doesn't make sense to me because there's big T trauma and small T trauma, as my therapist likes to say, or one of my previous therapists, I should say. And essentially what it was like, hey, like, think about it this way, like, those who went through Don't Ask, Don't Tell have a small T trauma. It's still a troubling time for them. They still have a lot of issues and trauma from that. But, like, that has a very specific kind of way how big T trauma plays out if they have it. And most likely do. So, like, if, say you're a Don't Ask, Don't Tell era vet, and you're calling the hotline, and you have specific issues, and a lot of it is stemming from that era, and you're having trouble, why would we get rid of the tools to help veterans with that trauma? And funny enough, I called the Inspector General about that and put in a complaint about it to them, and a couple days later, I got a call from the hotline itself. I guess they were trying to make me see if I was okay because the recording system, I talked about suicide. And I guess their system flagged it, which is nice, but like, I'm not talking about my health right now. I'm relatively fine, all things considered. I'm not in red. Like, some days I'm yellow, but most days I'm green. But like, that's my thing. I have a great support network that keeps me from going into red. So I wouldn't call them, but apparently the system flagged it and they gave me a call, and I was very suspicious, and I was worried I was going to get a wellness check, which I don't trust those. And not because like the VA sent somebody I would trust it more. I just don't trust the cops, especially when there was a wellness check in State College when I was living in that area, and they killed the guy they killed the kid that they were doing the wellness check on. So, historically, cops and the LGBT community don't get along. But yeah, it's something that I'm concerned about. I'm deeply concerned about where LGBT healthcare for veterans are going. If we're going to lose our care, we're going to keep our care. Like, I get all my medications through the VA right now. To save money, I'm not on insurance. I'm rated high enough that all my care is through the VA. So we don't only have to worry about insurance for my spouse. And it's deeply concerning that, I may have to lose my care that I'm contracted to receive because of stuff that happened to me in the military. And it's upsetting. And it's deeply upsetting because other veterans are going to get that care, but because they're not LGBT in any facet, they're going to still get that care. But because I use it, it's an issue. So, this was a shorter episode. I definitely wanted to talk about this because it's an important topic. And pride in all who served is a big thing for me. And I am deeply upset about the threat of it going away because it's an important tool. Without that group, I wouldn't know about all the health care, like gender affirming care I can get at the VA. Which I honestly have an appointment for one of my first sessions in like 2 days from recording today. And it's upsetting that I might lose my care just because we have a president who is a bigot. So, I'm going to keep this one short. If you are near a VA and this is something that interests you, I will put the link to the diffusion marketplace from VA's website, as long as it's still going to be there, in my show notes. Definitely reach out to your LGBT coordinator if you're in the area, or just talk to one of your primary care. They can point you into the right direction. And before I end the episode, I do want to say one thing. I am part of a trans group now. So I am part of a trans group known as Trans Hope United. This is a small trans content creator organization that is slowly being built up. I don't have any notes right now of what I'm supposed to say, so I'm just kind of talking about it as best as I can. Maybe there's something in the Discord. Let me take a look. But basically, there's tons of small trans content creators who have big dreams, but a small platform, no staff. Like myself, I'm doing all of this in the small room that we're pretty sure used to be a butler room when this house was built in 1905. We turned it into a little studio. It's me by myself with some audio equipment, bits and pieces that I've scrounged around, and a laptop. And so we're starting this trans creators collective to help fill in some of those gaps, things to help fellow creators increase collective platform by promoting each other, featuring others in our podcasts or other medias, sharing our skills, collecting fundraising in the form of a group Patreon probably down the road, an online directory. Now, this does have a website. The website is slowly being built up, but it is transhopeunited.com. Just double checking that real fast. Transhopeunited.com. Basically, me, Brat Podcast, Ben and Robin are trans, who I was recently on a recording not too long ago for an episode of their podcasts, and many other small podcasters that I hope to interact with in the future will be on that directory. So I do want to say I am part of that. I will probably have an ad for that near the end of the episodes from now on. So I do want to get everybody a heads up on that. And I greatly appreciate if anybody does listen to any of those podcasts. If you listen to me, please give them a listen too. I'm very focused on LGBT and veterans. So that's my niche, but a lot of them are talking about things where we have some overlap, and there's a lot of things that I don't talk about that they talk about, and there's things that I talk about they don't talk about. So please give them a listen. I definitely will appreciate it. And like always, stay focused, stay hydrated. No, that's not how I do it. Edit that last part out. And as always, stay safe, stay hydrated, stay vigilant.